welcome to Terra Stories Impact Investing Series. In this series, we explore impact-focused public and private companies in multiple market sectors that utilize proven, cost-effective, and game-changing sustainable technologies to reduce cost and increase efficiencies and shareholder value. I'm Tony Saxton, and I'd like to welcome Dawn Rodney of Garden for Wildlife and National Wildlife Federation. Welcome.
Thanks, Tony. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. So we'll kick it off with a few questions that we had talked about. I guess first off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you got here to NWF and Garden for Wildlife?
Definitely. I was thinking about that question because I have been around for a while and thought about my journey, and it really has been defined by building and transforming purpose-driven brands. I spent a lot of my career in television, launching, networks like Animal Planet, and then I went and I think I was employee number 12 of National Geographic Channel, and really helped launch that channel and grow it to from 10 million viewers to over 100 million viewers. A lot of the work I did, was really focused on how do you bring the mission of National Geographic to the television screen, and found that the love of the science and education and wildlife conservation work was really fueling a lot of my energy and just time and focus. I was then tapped to lead the global brand for National Geographic, and that actually gave me a tremendous opportunity to work really in the digital space. I, was head of the global brand during the digital transformation, and the storytelling that National Geographic did within the digital space, the communities it was building, the new digital products that it was launching, as well as the businesses that were being built, including, launching new travel products and other things and travel experiences with our travel business, as well as e-commerce and other parts of the business. And that experience actually led me to be able to combine this storytelling and the cause marketing work that I'd been doing at the channel with the real digital product focus from National Geographic at the time that I was there. After leaving National, I was there 18 years. So after leaving National Geographic, it really led me to the National Wildlife Federation. And I was able to take and combine this career really dedicated to storytelling and digital products to the conservation space and combine it with my love of wildlife conservation. So that led me to the National Wildlife Federation and my role as Chief Innovation and Growth Officer. And really my charter has been to find, those innovative solutions that both help us scale the impact that we have, as well as drive revenue for the organization to continue to fuel the conservation work that we do.
Wonderful. And so that brings us to Garden for Wildlife. Tell us about the organization, its areas of focus, specific areas of focus, and specific problems that you're setting out to address, and then obviously the business model. How does the business model work?
Well, Garden for Wildlife was one of the first innovation initiatives that I really focused on in partnership with Mary Phillips, who is also part of the audience today. And we took a successful, almost 50-year-old program that was dedicated to transforming habitat where people lived, worked, play, and worshiped and learned, because we have a schoolyard habitat program, and looked at it to figure out how, what are the problems? How do we scale this? We'd been doing wonderful work at a grassroots level over the years, but we really wanted to figure out how to scale it at a level that was truly going to make an impact. And one of the things we found was that, the supply of native plants was really a barrier for people, that the industry as a whole, while people really had a desire to plant with native plants or understood the benefits of planting with native plants, we really couldn't get them. Only about 15% of native plants are available today. And so we sought to figure out, how do we bring native plants to the market? How do we change and transform the horticultural industry so that native plants become more readily available across the industry? That led us to the e-commerce business and really creating scientifically curated collections of native plants that make it really, really easy for people to purchase and plant and help wildlife. And the idea behind it is, the more we can get people to plant these collections, the more wildlife we can help. And of course, there's a lot of other benefits beyond wildlife that, we've got. When you use native plants, it helps with soil, it helps with carbon capture. When you're using the shrubs and the trees, it helps with, you use less chemicals, everything that is, there's so many other benefits to the work that we're doing beyond, just the plants themselves, that the kind of scale and impact we can make is far greater than just the wildlife crisis we're trying to address.
Wonderful. So tell us about some of the key products offered by Garden for Wildlife, and where and how are they distributed?
So right now we're available in 36 states. That includes everywhere from Michigan and Wisconsin all the way down to Florida and to parts of Texas. This is our first full year in business. We launched last year in April, right in the middle of gardening season. And we launched with a core set of products that really were built for, to really help monarchs specifically, or butterflies, as well as other pollinators. We've now expanded our collections to collections that help birds, collections that help fireflies. We continually develop new products that really support the wildlife that we're trying to save, but also combine that with what we're hearing from customers as well, of what they want to be able to plant and how they want to be able to support wildlife. I jokingly say that, we offer milkweed, and milkweed actually is very hard to come by. Most local garden clubs sell out really, really quickly. And we have the ability, through the business model that we have, is to grow milkweed and multiple species of milkweed in a way that can meet the demand out there. I call it our gateway plant. You bring them in with a milkweed, and hopefully you get them planting other plants as well for wildlife. But we're constantly looking at our collections. We're adding shrubs. We're going to add trees in the coming year, so we can continually help people transform their own personal spaces, whether that's their backyard or a small piece of land or a balcony in an apartment building. All of that will help wildlife, and all of that, we're creating collections that will allow people to plant and help wildlife wherever they live.
That's great. And so is that essentially what differentiates you, Garden for Wildlife, from everybody else out there? Or is anyone else doing anything like what you're doing?
Tony, I think there's more than that differentiates us. I do think the fact that we make it really easy for people, finding native plants that work for your area actually takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of research. It takes time to understand what plants work best. And then it takes time to figure out where you can actually get them. We've taken all of that out of the equation, and really then used the science and the expertise that we have and curated these to make it really easy for people to just buy a collection and plant it, and knowing that collection is specific to their area. It's going to help wildlife in the best way possible. One of the challenges that I think is out in the market right now is there are a lot of people who build plants as, for butterflies or for pollinators. And the reality is, you don't know if they're grown sustainably. You don't know if they're using chemicals that actually harm wildlife. You don't know if they're cultivars, which is basically, they've been so bred out of, any of their benefits for wildlife, they actually don't matter. we've actually, in the way that we are creating the collections, and the growers that we are working with are dedicated to that sustainable practice and dedicated to ensuring that the plants actually are of the highest quality and are not using neonicotinoids, are able to support, are not cultivars. That is something that is going to take time to educate consumers on, I think, but it is certainly a differentiator than what else you see in the market.
Really interesting. And you've talked a little bit about this, but is there anything else that you'd like to mention in terms of impact focused agriculture and conservation, what it means to you?
You know, I think part of what I always think about, I'm a very consumer focused person, you know, and I think, and a lot of this is about people want to help, you know, and they want to do something. And up until now, we've been told recycle, 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 right? If you recycle and reuse, you're going to help the climate, you're going to help wildlife. I think this is, for me, and especially as someone who comes at this space as I jokingly never call myself a gardener. I love to garden. I love plants. I have lots of plants in my yard. But, you know, like for someone who is more of a novice like me, I think that this is one way people can help both wildlife and the climate in a way that is really easy, and you still get the beauty and the love of the plants that you have in your yard while you're also helping wildlife. So to me, it's just giving people an option to actually be able to act and do something to help the planet in the end.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on. So how did you meet the team at Terra?
Well, first of all, I have to say we love the team at Terra. We love Tony and Ann
Feeling is
and
mutual.
Jim. I know that's a setup question, right? You know, like Terra has been involved with National Wildlife Federation for many, many years and has had a wonderful relationship with the nonprofit. And really, my colleague Carrie Stanton has really been the key connection in with Terra and introduced me to Tony and Ann and the team there. And we just found that our purposes are so aligned in what we were trying to achieve that we knew from the first conversation that we had, like this was going to be a wonderful partnership and a wonderful relationship.
Thank you. Again, the feeling is very much mutual, and we love you guys, all of you. So let's see. So the relationship with Terra has advanced into really it is advancing, I should say, into a multifaceted business partnership. Would you tell us a little bit about that? What are some of the synergies or advantages of investment partners that share your vision and triple bottom line approaches? And why would other sustainable impact companies benefit from a relationship like this? So, and several questions there.
So I'll take that in pieces and parts. I think for me, there's many advantages to being part of the group at Terra. Garden for Wildlife is more than just selling plant collections to consumers. We have the opportunity to scale not only from a market standpoint and really look at how do we expand globally through the relationships and the businesses that Terra has, but the partnerships within other industries that can really benefit from transformation. Real estate is a perfect example of that. Sustainable real estate is a perfect example of that. We're working together to figure out how do we transform that industry so as land and businesses and homes and communities are being developed, that native plants and the impact to wildlife is first and foremost in the businesses, and they're doing work that allows us to be able to offset some of the development that is happening in a way that they're planning their communities. Sustainable packaging, I have to bring up our work with Art because in Art Landy, in the horticultural business, when we first launched last year, our only option for packaging was recycled plastic. And, it's really critical for us as a business that is trying to save wildlife for us to work as sustainably as possible. And we were not happy with the fact that recycled plastic was our only option. At least it was recycled, right? But we've been working together with Art and the team at Terra to really design brand new packaging that is not available in the market, to really not just package the plants, but be able to help create production efficiencies and other things as we are working together with local growers and changing the way that they work, and creating those efficiencies that we need to be able to scale. So it's both about the packaging, this wonderful packaging that we can develop together, as well as changing the way that we are actually operating and doing and producing and fulfilling the plants collections that we have.
Yes, well, we're all very blessed to have Art Landy on our team, a top industrial designer. So in terms of and I'm throwing in a couple of questions here that we didn't have, but in terms of the packaging, what is your ideal ETA to take these to market? And from what we all know, the packaging looks incredibly disruptive, not only for Garden for Wildlife, but the industry in general, I think.
Yeah, I think, I love being the catalyst for this. And I love that we came in and had a problem that we were trying to solve, and Terra really helped us figure out how to solve it. I'm the most impatient person in the world, so I want things sooner rather than later. Ideally, if we can get this in market by spring of next year, which is the height of, our season where we are delivering the most plants, then that would be wonderful. I'll be honest with you, this is not my area of expertise, and this is where we really rely on Art and Terra for us to figure out what is actually possible and how quickly can we move to get these to market, because the industry needs it. This is not, I think once we could introduce this, I think there's huge opportunities throughout the entire industry to be able to start getting this packaging. And that starts changing more than just plants and how we do plants. That starts changing an entire industry, which is very exciting.
It is. Well, we're moving it as quickly as we can, but we'll defer to Art on timelines, but and hopefully much quicker than spring of next year. So we'll see how that all goes. So back to the other questions that I lumped in with the initial one. So synergies, advantages of investment partners that share your vision and vision and triple bottom line approach. Anything you want to mention on that?
Yeah, it's interesting because as I've been out, really talking to a lot of different potential investors in Garden for Wildlife, it's clear when you have when your values are aligned. And as a business that grew out of a nonprofit, we need to ensure our values are aligned and understand that the business, that triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit, all weigh into the decision making of the business and how you scale, how you grow, the kinds of products that you offer, the dedication to the science, the dedication to the impact. For us to be able to bring those pieces together, like those are the kind of people we want to be able to work with. And the advantage is that you get it. You get what we're trying to achieve. You get that you've got to make decisions that are that consider all three components and not just the profits. And there are people out there that that only want to make money. And while yes, we want to make money for sure, we also want to make impact. And and again, I go back to the more collections we sell, the more plants, trees, and shrubs we sell, the more we help wildlife and the climate. And getting that relationship and making sure we're not doing things from a business standpoint that is going to jeopardize the social enterprise aspect of the business itself, like not jeopardize, like the kind of partner that Terra brings, the partnership that Terra brings allows us to be able to do both. And that, I think, for us is really, really critical, because we don't want to be making decisions in the future of the growth of this business that are going to jeopardize the impact that we want to make.
Well, yeah, Terra very much prides itself on working with companies like you guys, where we're able to to add, excuse me, value on a number of fronts as well as capital as we
Mhm.
as we scale together and help you all scale. So, and obviously, impact for us is really everything. It's the primary focus. Um, so, along those lines, would you recommend that other sustainable, impact focused, driven companies benefit from a relationship like this as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and people
Excuse me.
without the right partners, and a lot of advice that I got early on as we were looking at investment partners and partners out there, that we could work with to scale our business. The stories that have been told have been not pleasant, like it really. So I have loved being, just connected in with every single person I have met through Terra. I think there's huge opportunities for the business, things that we hadn't even thought of in the past, and ways to think about the business differently that still achieves the goal and the purpose that we have set out to do. So, and in the loveliest of ways too. I have to say that, like this is the conversations we have are always inspiring and always wonderful. So yeah, I would highly recommend anyone connecting in with Terra to be able to figure out how how they can grow both their impact of their business as well as just grow as a business as a whole.
Well, thank you for that. Again, feeling is mutual. And I want to remind everyone to please enter any questions into the chat that you may have as we wrap up our questions. Dawn, what else are you working on right now in general or with Terra that you might want to mention to the audience?
I think there are, right now from a business standpoint, we, our most immediate need is really to grow the business and move quickly to the West Coast. And from a business standpoint, that's what we're trying to do. We also want to move quickly into offering larger products and different products. So our product offerings are really a key focus of ours. That's really short term. I think, long term, the vision for this business is, I jokingly say, global domination, but it's not, it's about, how the wildlife crisis, the climate crisis doesn't stop at the borders of the US. Right now we're a US focused business. There is a global expansion in our future. How quickly we can do that, we're still trying to figure out. But I do think that, as I look long-term into the business, this is about transforming the way that people plant and garden, right? And that needs to happen across the world. And we need to start getting people to believe that they could take their personal spaces and actually transform the lawns into habitats for wildlife that are going to benefit both people and the planet.
So you're looking to expand first into California, then internationally. Is that the goal?
It'll go California, then North America, and then internationally is kind of the staging that we've currently outlined in our business plan.
And are there specific regions around the world that you focus on first, or do you do it methodically, or just suddenly you're going global?
Oh no, we would do it methodically. I think we need to look at where the biggest opportunities are. I think Europe would be the first in Europe, but there could be other markets that we look at from a global standpoint. And honestly, that's where we would tap into Terra and your expertise, because I do think the global reach of Terra will really help us figure out where the best opportunities would be for us to grow internationally.
We're excited to jump in and help. Definitely. Okay. So how can our listeners learn more about you and National Wildlife and Garden for Wildlife?
Well, certainly the listeners can go to gardenforwildlife.com and look for, it's very easy to put in your zip code and find plant collections that are specific to your area, and go ahead and purchase those plants to help wildlife. That would be really great. But gardenforwildlife.com would be great, or nationalwildlifefederation.org is another website people can certainly go to find out more about the programmatic work that happens for Garden for Wildlife, because there's a lot of wonderful work that happens on the ground in communities as well.
Great, thank you. So I have a couple more questions before we wrap it up and open it up to the audience. So you've shared an incredible, amazing journey with us. When you close your eyes and envision 10, 20, 30 years from now, what does the positive impact of Garden for Wildlife look like to you? And what would you like to see a better world look like?
One, I think we have stopped the decline of wildlife through the people taking action in their own personal spaces. And I think that is, for me, the ultimate goal of this business is, that when you look at, we didn't really talk about the statistics, but when you look at, 3 billion songbirds disappearing, or 90% of monarch butterflies, or 1 in 4 native bee species that are at risk for extinction, we've actually been able to stop the decline and reverse the decline of wildlife through people transforming where they live to help build these native habitats across the world. Because these are not just US issues. Obviously we want to do this globally. I also think that we have changed industries. I think that's another piece to all of this, not just the gardening industry, but also other industries that are use large swaths of land, and thinking differently and using that land differently in order to support wildlife and climate. I think that like 30 years from now, if we've been able to do that, then this has been a huge success, and at a scale that one nonprofit couldn't be able to do on its own. And I think that's the key. The work of the National Wildlife Federation, the reason we started this business was because we knew we needed to scale in order to address this wildlife crisis we were facing. And this is a way to do it through the market in a way that, quite honestly, most nonprofits wouldn't dare to do, just given how they operate. But this goes beyond the scale of National Wildlife Federation and the ability for the impact that one organization could make.
Great answers. Couldn't agree more. Are there questions from the audience? If so, please quickly enter them into the chat and we'll get them to Dawn. No?
So Jared asked, what are the big hurdles and key partnerships you will need to scale? Really, this comes down to, Jared, growers. We are as successful as the growers that we engage with and the right partners. There are growers out there who don't necessarily want to grow sustainably. They have their business model that they use. So finding those right partners in those areas as we grow and expand are going to be really critical, and ones that want to grow and scale with us. A lot of growers, while they are, they grow a lot for a lot of different businesses, we are doing something completely different. We use a different model. It's direct to consumer. The growers themselves are fulfilling and shipping the plants. A lot of growers aren't set up that way. So finding the partners who are willing to change the way that they are operating, change the way that they do business, because they believe in the purpose of this business, and they believe that in native plants, and they believe in growing sustainably, and all of that, that's a really critical piece to the work that we're doing, finding those right grower partners. While it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a hurdle. It's just a challenge because it takes a lot of time and energy. And in fact, Mary Phillips, who is on this call, is really, that's her sole focus, is to get out there and to really identify and secure those relationships with the right growers who are going to grow with us as a business.
Wonderful. Other questions from the audience? No? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Dawn. You can view more of our series on www.terra.bz. That's B as in boy, Z as in zebra, /impact. And thank you again.
Thanks, Tony, so much. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you all.